The following program is a work of broadcast students from the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland over the past week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their BCIT instructors.
Today on BCIT magazine, police forces team up to catch man preying on downtown East Side women. The Rio Theatre continues its fight with the Liquor Control Board. And a Coquitlam town home complex is damaged after a 2-alarm fire. Good afternoon and welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Casey Pitts. The BC government has introduced legislation that would impose a cooling-off period in its dispute with teachers, which would ban strikes or lockouts and appoint a mediator. Education Minister George Abbott introduced the legislation just hours after the Labour Relations Board ruled that teachers can strike for up to 3 days a week, followed by a single day a week. Vancouver police have teamed up with the Burnaby RCMP to catch a sexual predator preying on women in the downtown East Side. Rafferty Baker has more.
Burnaby RCMP have arrested a 43-year-old laborer from Surrey in a handful of sexual attacks on downtown East Side women.
We believe that Mr. Sharma perhaps may have been involved in other offenses. So now we're reviewing all of the files, and we believe that we've located victims, potential victims from 1994. There are several women who we believe may have been assaulted, and we're continuing our investigation.
Shailendra Kumar Sharma allegedly picked up sex trade workers in Vancouver's downtown East Side and brought them to South Burnaby. There, they were allegedly threatened, forcibly confined, and sexually assaulted.
It was the work of a tenacious VPD sex crimes analyst combined with dozens of RCMP and VPD investigators, which link key pieces of the puzzle together across multiple jurisdictions.
Aboriginal Front Door Executive Director Mona Woodward says she's happy to hear that another threat is off the street.
My initial reaction was a sense of relief because there's women going to be safe in this community as a result of the work that RCMP and the Vancouver Police Department have done. In the past, the communication and relationship between the RCMP and Vancouver Police Department was less than perfect, and that's really putting it mildly.
Police aren't releasing Sharma's photo. Instead, they're releasing photos of vehicles he is known to have driven since 1994.
Police are appealing to anyone who may have witnessed or been the subject of an assault, sexual assault, or theft associated to any of these 4 vehicles.
Anyone willing to come forward with information should contact Crime Stoppers. Rafferty Baker in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
The Rio Theatre is continuing its struggle against the Liquor Control Board. Reporter Braden Oates has the latest chapter in their fight.
The alcohol debate at the Rio Theatre continues as the owner wishes to show movies without serving liquor, which is currently against the law as a primary liquor license holder.
The solution is simple. We are simply asking that venues like ourselves be allowed to simply lock up the alcohol when they're having events without bar service. It makes absolutely no sense that I should have to pay $110 to lock up my own alcohol.
Public support is behind Corrine and the Rio Theatre.
I do think movie theaters should be able to serve somewhat amount of alcohol as long as it's in a responsible consumption.
And maybe if they don't want to sell liquor during a movie, I think that should be totally fine. I don't see what the issue is.
I don't see why that's even an issue at all. I mean, if they want to drink and watch a movie, so be it.
The Rio Theatre is allowed to continue to operate under strict restrictions, which, according to Corrine Lee, the owner of the Rio Theatre, are impossible to follow. She is calling on all Rio supporters to join her in an upcoming public protest. Braden Oates in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
One home in a Coquitlam complex has been damaged by a 2-alarm fire, but as I found out, many other units were damaged as well, although not by the fire.
I opened the door and saw the smoke and them running out saying, "You gotta go, it's a real fire."
Firefighters arrived to this Coquitlam condo complex and quickly put out the blaze. Damage in the unit was extensive, but water damage affected other units as well.
We're in mop-up and looking for extension. The fire is struck. We're working with the city bylaws and victim services to retrieve animals from the building at this time. Our fire prevention people are on scene and they are doing the investigation.
Firefighters were forced to break through the roof of the condo to make sure the blaze was completely put out. Residents could only watch and wait for fire crews to discover the extent of the damage.
We don't know what's happened with all of the other ones yet. They haven't gone in to assess them, so we're not really sure.
With all of the uncertainty and confusion, residents are left wondering when they'll be able to return to their homes. Casey Pitts in Coquitlam for BCIT Magazine. Coming up after the break, BCIT's Building Science program gets a financial boost. Advocates say policy changes need to be made to address school bullying, and a new program is giving free alcohol to people living with alcoholism.
Check out the Coastal First Nations Dance Festival at UBC's Museum of Anthropology. It runs from March 8th to 11th and includes dance groups from BC, the Yukon, and even further afield. This St. Patrick's Day, why not go for a run before you hit the pub? The BMO St. Patrick's Day 5K takes place at Stanley Park, starting at 10 a.m. And afterwards you can grab an Irish stew, a scone, or head to Granville Island for the after party. And with Easter right around the corner, why not learn how to make Pisanki Ukrainian Easter eggs with best-selling author Joan Brander? She'll be running workshops throughout the month, and it might be something worth checking out during the spring break period. For BCIT Magazine's Community Calendar, I'm Martin McMahon.
Welcome back. A unique building program at BCIT has been given a financial boost. As I report, it will be used to research sustainable structures.
Section of a wall system, just a wall. In wall system, we will have different layers which have different functions.
BCIT's Building Science program has received over $500,000 in funding. Director Fitzum Teraku says more financial help is on the way.
From outdoor to indoor. This $530,000 is part of the $1.7 million project that we are working on, where we have some industry partners are putting in some money in BCIT as well.
Building Sciences plans to use the money for materials for new projects, as well as expanded research, such as finding out how much moisture and heat is absorbed by buildings. The Building Science Center of Excellence hopes to conduct these experiments by building 2 test facilities. Research analysts say testing will benefit residential and commercial structures.
Like testing the building material property, or building assembly, building wall system or something like that. So previous year, actually, we had the commercial project done very well.
Teraku says there is a future for building science, but certain parts need more research.
There will be a huge growth in material research and material development, where you will have higher thermal efficiency, especially on the insulation. But we shouldn't be forgetting about the durability part of the buildings, because we might be upgrading our building for energy, but it might have a diverse effect on durability of the buildings.
Thanks to the funding, the Building Science Center will be able to merge building sustainability and durability. Casey Pitts in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
Every time we do, so we know how.
Anti-Bullying Day was this week, and high schools across the country came out in full support. Braden Oates went to King George Secondary to see how they are raising awareness about this issue.
Many students and members of the media gathered at King George Secondary to discuss the need to change the policy about how gays, lesbians, and transgendered youth are treated at school. MLA Spencer Shadow Herbert is a strong advocate for policy change.
Let's bring in policy to actually ensure that our kids are safe, that they're protected, that they're celebrated, that they're accepted. And 75% of our school districts currently do not have policy, and that is unacceptable. Unfortunately, all the stories from youth about the huge bullying they face, the homophobia they face in our schools, have not convinced the Premier to act. I don't know why. It's scandalous. But if the public gets involved, hopefully she may realize that public pressure is going against her on this and that she may act.
Students spoke about their experiences with bullying and what they decided to do about it.
You know, it was weird because for me, I wasn't aware that I was a bully until I had already stopped because, you know, growing up and just life changes and getting more involved with organizations and programs such as Love, you see a lot of people in this room wearing pink, and that stands for like solidarity. We're all standing together to fight this issue.
Braden Notes in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
For people living with extreme cases of alcoholism, the entire day can be spent just trying to get that next drink. But in Vancouver, there's a program that prescribes free alcohol to a select group of participants. Rafferty Baker has the story.
Claire Haxel runs a cutting-edge new facility which is giving free alcohol to folks living with extreme alcoholism.
And then I'll give you a bus ticket. Okay?
She says that since the Managed Alcohol Program, or MAP, began in October, the results have been impressive.
For a lot of folks who were reporting, drinking 30 or 40 standard drinks a day of Listerine or rubbing alcohol, came onto the program. They started with the vodka, then they tapered themselves onto wine, and now they're tapering themselves down to like only 8 to 12 drinks a day.
MAP is run out of the Station Street community, a supported housing facility built last year to accommodate 80 people with various special needs. Haxel says before people can deal with challenges like addiction, they need to have stable housing.
The single most important thing is the housing. And housing is the one thing that Vancouver is shortest on. The second step is identifying what supports folks need and embedding those supports within the context of housing.
And for a select group of 8 residents, what's needed is a regulated, consistent supply of alcohol. A doctor routinely checks in and evaluates the amount of alcohol prescribed. MAP participants can be given vodka, wine, or beer.
Once you're in, you're generally set up on a pretty standard prescription, which is 1.5 ounces or 1 standard drink per hour for a maximum of 12 drinks per day. And that starts at 7:30 in the morning and goes until 10:30 at night.
12 drinks a day may seem like a lot, but Haxel says that in the context of improvements she's seen with MAP participants, it's actually great news.
But since this program started, they're so much calmer. They're visiting with their families. They're getting on medications that they've never been on. They're, talking about going through counseling. They're getting referred to detox. And these are things that just weren't happening before. And now, because we've been able to stabilize their drinking, we're able to open the door and have a conversation about anything else that's going on in their life.
So while the idea of giving free liquor to alcoholics may seem absurd at first glance, a visit to the Station Street community will quickly put the issue into perspective. Rafferty Baker in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Former BC Premier Bill Vander Zalm has been found guilty of defaming the province's former conflict of interest commissioner, Ted Hughes. A BC Supreme Court judge issued today that the ruling is ordering the former premier to pay basic legal charges. And the RCMP believe that an unsafe lane change may have set off a series of events that caused the death of a 20-year-old Vancouver woman. Police say a charge of changing lanes unsafely will be laid against the driver, who they believe caused the woman to hit a roadside barrier and then plunge into the Serpentine River in Surrey. Rescue workers retrieved the woman, but she later died in hospital. And if you have any questions or comments regarding this program, please visit us online at bcitbroadcastnews.ca or bcit-broadcast.com. I'm Casey Pitts, and that's today's BCIT Magazine. Thank you for watching. We leave you now with a look at the snow-capped North Shore Mountains as seen from Burnaby Mountain Park.